So, fixing our hurting planet, that's something that all of us are really hoping will happen right now. And as lovers of Earth and with open eyes to the challenges we face, you may find, as I do, that lots of mental and emotional energy goes into seeking a solution to the poly crisis that we are in. You want answers, right? You want to know what needs to be done, who should do it, and how can I help? What can I do? At the same time, it's really clear that there are many, many things that need to happen. There's not just one thing. And we're so scattered in our attention by all the things. Where should we focus? It's hard. It's hard. There's so much to do. So much is pulling at us, and nothing feels sufficient. Should we focus on energy? That's been the big conversation in our culture, right? Oil and gas are the big bad guys. They're making all this happen. And so we put it out there on the oil and gas companies, and we can't do anything about that. We want them to stop their exploration, to limit production. We want to encourage them to adapt to alternatives. And where are we in that conversation? What can we do? There are little things we can do. You know, people are buying electric cars. People are putting solar on their house. Those are all good things. But those are also band-aids. They're not really addressing the problem. And we kind of feel that, but it is something to do. Some people are familiar with global overshoot. There's 9 areas that the science has said the Earth has to have working functionally correct in order to maintain a thrivable atmosphere for life. We have overshot on 6 of those. So there's 6 areas there. Which one should we pick? Which one should we focus on? And what can we do about this? What all these attempts have in common is developing a workable, effective solution. And you know what? That's why they're not working. We're emitting more CO2 than we did last year. Species are dying at a faster rate. More species are being impacted. So this approach, this way we're holding the system, may not be the one that's actually going to get us to the solution. We need to think differently. So if you feel that this is where you're at, this is why I'm talking to you. We need to be effective. We need to make a difference. We need to figure out how to go through this process. So all of these attempts that are focused on controlling or stopping what is happening are in error. They're not actually looking at the reality that we're in. We want to control it. Stopping is a form of control. But every action we take, including these band-aids that we're applying, solar energy and electric cars, I mean, we all know that there are issues with those. So they're not really part of the answer. They're part of us slowing down, a part of hoping to give us time, maybe, but they're really not impacting the situation. We can have an impact. Absolutely. We have no control. So this is one of the things to learn, to be comfortable in, and to understand what that means for our action. Because when we're caught in wanting to control or stop, we feel helpless. We feel this ennui about it's way bigger than us, this overwhelm. Why bother? There's nothing we can do. We get caught in those traps because we're looking at this problem in the wrong way. We're looking for a solution. There isn't a solution to this problem. This is a mess. It's not a problem. It's a very different thing. We're dealing with complex living adaptive systems. You can't do that to them. The earth is a complex adaptive system. Your city is a complex adaptive system. Actually, your family is a complex living adaptive system. So this whole idea that we can make something go away or stop it becomes a form of addiction because we believe in linear cause and effect. If we do this, this will happen. That is not how living systems work. So all of our attempts to deal with all of these things are doomed to failure if we persist in doing the same thing we've always been doing, yet expecting different results, which is exactly what we're doing. There is nothing wrong. There is no blame about this. How could it be different? But this is a big misunderstanding about where we're at and what we can do. When you're caught in this, you work harder, but still you don't get the results you want, right? You're still feeling overwhelmed and helpless. So much so that I would guess that some of you are feeling burned out. And you haven't even done much, but you feel like you're exhausted from all of the efforting it takes to hold these multiple things and feel responsible for it. Maybe you're guilty, feel guilty because you haven't actually been able to do anything. It's not a useful emotion. And you can be angry because everybody else hasn't done anything. Or just generally anxious because you keep thinking about it and thinking about it, but there's no solution. You haven't been able to put your finger on what it needs to what needs to be done to make this different. I'm guessing that you want things to change, but at the same time, you may be putting off making any real change in your own life. I mean, maybe you've done the little things. Maybe you have an electric car. Maybe you've put solar on your house. Maybe you no longer eat meat. But fundamentally, you're living your life the same way. Maybe you're still thinking about your career. You're saving for a rainy day, plotting how to get your kids into a good school, all the things we do in our culture to keep life going as we know it. And you're doing that not because you're a bad person. You are caught in the system for sure. But what would you do differently? I don't think it's clear what you would do differently, but it still doesn't feel good. And you're taking this whole thing seriously, but you're finding yourself caught up acting just like everyone else, even though you really care and wish it could be different in some kind of way. If you're a nerd like me, you may be reading everything you can get your hands on to better understand the issues, and it only gets you more depressed and more angry as minutes go by and you realize the scope of the issues, and yet you still feel powerless. It is so easy to feel like a victim when this is so overpowering, so inevitable, so just there. And you can see how huge the changes are in the natural world. And maybe you can speculate some about what that impact is, but maybe you don't even go there. You're just thinking about all of this stuff happening and what we can do about it, about the deaths, about the displacements and how that's going to impact us. but it's so much deeper than that. Someone should do something. And you are waiting for clarity so that you can do something. And I'll bet it's true that if a solution shows up, you would be the first to spot it and to implement it. That's still caught in the belief that there is a solution. I'll bet that you've had the experience where you don't want to feel like a nag to your family and friends. Like, this is so consuming. If this is all you ever talk about, you'd be banished. You feel others don't want to hear what you have to say, and you're probably right with that. There may have been a time when you marched and wrote letters and were an activist in all of these things, and it still doesn't seem to make a difference. So the sense of urgency that seems to require action now, but the lack of clarity as to what action can take is incredibly frustrating. Blaming big pharma, blaming big oil, blaming doesn't really get to an engaged solution. It doesn't really solve the problem either. But you have this frustration because you care. And you're here listening to me because you care. There aren't answers. There are ways to address the issues we are facing. But it really requires a different way of thinking. You cannot get where we need to be by thinking the same way we've been thinking. Easy for me to say and hard for you to understand or get. So I'm open. Please get in touch. Let's talk about what this looks like. There are different ways of seeing and understanding this that open up incredible opportunities. You can get off this treadmill of finding a solution, of trying to stop or control what's happening, which drives so much behavior and so much at such emotional and mental cost. You don't have to do that. I can help with this. There are ways. So get in touch. Bridge2 partnership at gmail.com is my email. Bridge2 partnership at gmail.com. And the website is bridge2partnership.com. Connect with me. Let's get in touch. Let's talk about it. We can do this. We can.